저는 궁금한 게 한국에서 제가 교육을 받으면서 느꼈던 거는 거의 1 영역 중심으로 1 영역 정보의 세계 중심으로 배우고 쪼끔 상징의 세계 쪼끔 그렇지만 3 영역과 4 영역을 우리가 교육받거나 이거를 전체를 통합하는 교육을 한국에서는 받아본 적이 없는 것 같아요. 이것을 유대인들은 4 가지 디멘션에서 차원에서 이거를 같이 통합적으로 바라보고 있는데 '와 이걸 어떻게 교육을 받고 있을까?' 그리고 단지 이것이 특별한 유대인들의 천재들 랍비들이 교육받는 건지 아니면 일반인 그러니까 유대인들도 모두가 이런 교육을 받는 건지 그럼 어떻게 이것을 교육하는지가 궁금했습니다.
I mean, like any other, and like any other people, the Jews are a group of people. Some are smarter, some are more, sensible. Others are less. So, like it's a group of people. What Judaism did was to create a curriculum, sort of education that would foster this kind of perception. And it's based on the idea of how do you integrate, when I was saying integration of objective and subjective. Any art requires presence. You have to have an artist to do art. So there's a way of looking at situations and creating the right focus for things. For example, when we are children, we want, we go to school and we don't understand what school is, because there was this beautiful saying that says that when you teach me something, I forget. If you show me something, I remember. If you involve me, I understand. So the whole idea of getting to understanding is to be involved. And you don't get involved with answers. You get involved with questions. So when you go to school, the worst thing that happens in school is that you go to a class and the teacher starts showing you answers. You don't have the question. So you look at the material you're being learning, you write it down, you'll forget it. You've not been involved. So the main thing is how to raise questions from the children, from the students, so that they can be involved. And by being involved, they'll be they'll have the focus of somebody that is in searching, and that creates the whole perspective that allows people to understand. So this whole book is about how to be willing to go for the questions, and we don't have that motivation, because the first motivation is to grab the answer, and it's very objective. But when you go to a school, you have to be also subject. What are you doing there? You're just getting a good grade. Why do you want a good grade? You don't want a good grade. You want a good grade, but you want to understand something that will allow you to relate to life in a more wide way, more wise way. But we don't have this understanding. Even our parents that send us to school, they don't know. One of the things that I think I mentioned in the book is about a Nobel Prize. The person that the mother would come and not ask, what did you learn in school? Because whatever you learned in school, next day you don't remember. She was asking, what did you ask in school? Were you there? Were you curious about things? And by being curious, you're motivated and you become an artist of, there is whatever answer. You will not be satisfied with answers. We have in Brazil, imagine you have this here in Korea, when you're learning geography. In Brazil, we learn the capitals of the countries of the world. And when you are having like an exam, you go to your mother or father, whatever, you ask them to check with you, to ask you questions. So like Bolivia, what is the capital? Korea, what is the capital? And when you're a child, you ask them to do that, and you want them to ask you the capitals that you're so sure about them. You hate when they ask a question about a country that you're not that well acquainted with. This is the wrong motivation. If you are really motivation, you don't want to know what you know. You really want to know what you don't know. So why would you be motivated to know what you don't know? Because not knowing is a sense of impotence. So I want to skip that. I want to, divert from that. But this is not the right motivation. You're going to school to learn everything that you don't learn. So you're more focused on what you don't learn, don't know, than what you know. But we don't have that mindset or even emotional set when we go to school. So we're getting it all reversed. We want school is a place. You see that when you look at the traditional, when you go like to Buddhist idea of wisdom, they make the disciple. First of all, the disciple needs to want to know before you start giving them answers. The answers have no meaning if you don't have questions.
그럼 어렸을 때부터 그냥 주의식 교육을 받고 자라신 거죠, 라삐님은?
No. I was educated in Brazilian schools. I fell into the traps of every Brazilian student. I also was very worried about doing. One of the things that we lost is that in the past, we used to go with our parents to their work, and we would learn with the parents a lot of things. Nowadays, the father, this motto of, father says, goodbye, I'm going to my office. You never go to your father's office. You don't know how he works. You never seen your father work. In the past, if you were, a carpenter, you would go with your father. You see how he deals with the guy where he buys the wood. You would see all the different things and you would learn from your father. So nowadays, we have this very sterile kind of system. We send our children and expect them to get education there. And education comes in many ways, how you sit on a table, how you honor. I know you have that. So this is very important. This is where a lot of the wisdom comes from, the sides that you were saying. We don't look at this very much in Korea. I understand what you're saying. But if you look carefully, you see that you do have a lot from the tradition. When you go and we look, we just visited the country and we go to the villages. And you see that there were ways of doing things. Like the way you had your first birthday and the 60th birthday, how much education was on that little ritual of creating, of emphasizing what is happening when you're 1 year old for the community, for your own self. What happens when you're 60 years old? So this is all values, but values is a way of educating people to look at reality. So those 1 year and 60-year-old special birthdays, they come from the existential dimension. There's nothing practical about that. What's the difference of first or second or third, birthday? But there's a teaching from the tradition. Look from the beginning to the end. Nowadays, thank God, we should do 1 year and 90. But it's like presenting to the society an idea of the span of things, and everybody would look at that, and then you have to be smart to live your life so that you value the first and the 60th birthday. So it creates a different perspective of whatever decision you're gonna make in the physical or the emotional, because the existential was being presented by your tradition.
굉장히 중요한 컨셉 중에 하나가 이것도 재밌었습니다. 질문 전에 해답이 있었다. 이 컨셉에 대해서 궁금하거든요. 정확하게는 문제보다 해답이 먼저 있었다라고 얘기해 주신 부분이 좀 궁금해요.
Yeah, this idea, it really comes from the biblical text. There was this moment when people were able to accept a commitment. The idea of learning, it's a commitment. Many things in life have to do with a commitment. For example, for you to get to an answer, you have to be committed. Because if you don't think there is an answer, you're not gonna look. For example, I lose something in this room. I'm not sure I really lost it here. Maybe I lost it in another place. I'm gonna search for a while and I'm gonna stop. But if I'm sure that what I'm looking for is in here, I'm gonna persevere. I'm gonna have resilience. I'm gonna be here until I find it. So this is an answer. This is something that I have created for myself that comes before the searching. So it's like a commitment to do something. This is what is interesting when you're looking at a concept. A concept is something that doesn't have a direction. For example, we always think that the person that teaches is the one that has the wisdom. You cannot teach if you're not learning. Teaching and learning is one and the same thing. So if you're not learning, you're teaching and you're not learning, it's because you think you understand everything. You know, I'm not trying to see other things. When you teach, it's very interesting. When you teach, you like empty yourself, because when you're teaching is when you really understand what you don't know. You can learn something and then you go give a class. While you're teaching somebody else, you see so many other aspects of doubt, of things that you haven't thought of. And the only way of learning is teaching. So you have to be in this constant exchange. I had this very good friend of mine, rabbi, very wise, and I was in an interview with him. And somebody asked him a question, and he would close his eyes before answering the question. And when the interviewer left, I asked him, "Why do you close your eyes?" It's like a scene kind of showing that you're wise. And he said, No. When somebody asks me a question, the first thing I do before I answer, I ask myself, what was the answer that I gave the last time that question was asked to me? Because we tend to give like an immediate answer, like an automatic answer of things that you have already answered. So he would close his eyes and ask himself, okay, last time I answered that, I answered in this way. But so many things happened. How would I answer it now? So by doing that, he's not allowing himself to be caught in this one dimension of question and answers. He's totally using that three-dimensional concept of looking at something, not from just one idea. I had this idea. I have to empty myself of that idea and learn something else. It doesn't have to be contrary to what I knew, but it will come with more, it will be richer. It will be more expanded. So this is the whole thing about intelligence. I think there is motivation behind intelligence. Something that our artificial intelligence, we're going to learn a lot in the next, years and decades and whatever. But what is very, very interesting is that we are motivated to learn. And that's when answers and questions become, they're sort of the same thing. They help each other. They're not the end. An answer is not the end. An answer is something that requires new questions for the better answer. And this exchange of motivation, of curiosity, of joy, is what is so special about having that faculty of a cup, a head, of being able to be awakened and conscious of life.
그러면 이제 마지막 질문이 될 것 같은데요. 우리 라삐님, 지금 책추남 구독자들이 책을 통해 삶이 바뀐다고 믿는 구독자들이 많은데, 그 구독자들에게 또 해주고 싶으신 말씀 하나, 그리고 또 하나는 일주일 동안 한국에 처음 오셔서 머무르시고 시간과 그 타이밍에 관해서 좀 알고 싶어서 이 아주 시간순이 밤낮이 바뀌어 있는 나라로 오셔서 DMZ도 보시고 하셨는데, 그 관찰을 기반으로 한국인들에게 좀 조언의 말씀을 주신다면은.
I was very inspired by visiting Korea. I admire people that have gone through very difficult moments. Not easy to be split, like you were, with families to one side, families the other side. This whole concept of this wall that is totally imaginary. It's totally created. It's like there is an ocean between South and North Korea. There is no ocean. There's nothing. There was just a mindset that created a division. And I understand it's very easy to say that from as an outsider. You coming from the whole drama of this, how this developed, it's there, it's real. But I think the most important thing with everything that we're talking is that there's no impossibility. Impossibility is not the artistic way of looking at a problem. When you give up because it is impossible, you're not thinking, because thinking is the art of finding a way, of believing. It's a motivation more than a belief, a motivation that if I look from a different perspective, if I keep turning, if I keep looking around, there will be a way to find the right way to get it. So don't ever think that it is impossible. It is not impossible. We begin with that motivation. It is not impossible, and then you're an artist.
감사합니다. 아유, 좀 장시간 이렇게 함께 해주셔서 정말 감사하고요. 라삐님이 우리에게 준 이 지혜가 한국과 세상을 향한 나비 효과를 일으키는 멋진 지혜가 되길 바랍니다. 오늘 또 이디시콥의 저자 리듀턴 우리 라삐님과 함께 한 나비 효과 인터뷰 오늘 여기까지 함께 하도록 하겠습니다. 긴 시간 감사드립니다. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.